Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is called I Love It, and it's by Dwayne Haggins from his most recent release, the full-length album Call Me Boston, which features 11 original compositions from Dwayne Haggins. He's coming back to Colorado for 2 shows next week. More details at the end of the next interview. This is the least streamed song on his album, so if you want to listen to this song and 10 more, head to wherever you get your music to listen to Call Me Boston.
Right now we're reminded, and I love it. Tornado storming may wash the sand out, but in all the spinning, you'll always stand out.
Hello! My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to the first ever retrospective edition of the Mountaineer Podcast. I wanted to start this series of the podcast in order to release interviews that I didn't get to release at the time that I actually conducted them. This week, to kick things off, I have 2 artists that I got to interview previously that are performing in the Peak to Peak area very soon. Our first guest, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
You got it. My name is Dwayne Haggins. I am a Massachusetts musician. I play all around kind of the East Coast, but centered in Massachusetts.
And you performed in Colorado a couple of years ago when we conducted this interview, didn't you?
Yes, sir, yes. I'll be there with my guitarist, Aaron Shreve. We'll be playing in the Boulder area at the Jamestown Mercantile and then the Gold Hill store in Boulder. So excited for those.
Funnily enough, that schedule lines up pretty closely to a schedule that's coming up for Dwayne, but we'll get to that later. For now, how did your musical journey begin, Dwayne?
Well, I used to watch the Conan O'Brien show all the time when it was on TBS. And Sturgill Simpson was a guest one of the nights, or a musical guest. And I never really paid attention to the musical guest, but for some reason, having that in the background, it really sparked my interest, and I went back and watched it again, and I became a huge Sturgill Simpson fan at that time. And there was one video of him playing the old Stanley Brothers song called Medicine Springs, and just the way he played that on guitar really inspired me to just go out the next day, buy a guitar, and then I just taught myself for the next few years and finally mustered up the courage to go to an open mic in Concord, Massachusetts. And then after that one open mic, I was like, oh, okay, I think I need to do this, or at least try to do this. So yeah, ever since then, it was December of 2016. So ever since then, I just hit the open mic scene really hard and got a few gigs, and then was able to start doing it full time. So yeah.
If you're curious, you can check out both of the Sturgill Simpson performances that Dwayne has mentioned on YouTube. You can check out the Conan O'Brien performance of Living the Dream on YouTube by the YouTube channel Levy Johnson, and you can check out Sturgill's performance of Medicine Springs on KEXP's series Pickathon. There's also actually a much older video of Sturgill performing Medicine Springs on music.qed's YouTube channel, and I'm not sure which version Dwayne was talking about, but check out both of those versions if you're interested. Along with Simpson, though, are there any other artists that have inspired you along the way?
Yeah, I would say at this point, 2 of my favorite artists of all time are Delaney Bramlett and Leon Russell. Leon Russell, I just really admire his songwriting, the way he led his band, and just his singing as well. He's not traditionally a great singer, I guess you could say. He's not like a Sam Cooke or Ray Charles, but he's just the guy that knew how to really use his voice soulful-wise. And I don't know why, it was just as soon as I first saw a live video of him, I went down a big Leon rabbit hole. I guess it's not really a rabbit hole because I'm still a huge fan of Leon Russell. So Leon Russell and Delaney Bramlett, and even the logo that we use and a lot of the paying homage to Leon by putting top hats and things, and so to speak. So I'd say those are 2 guys that definitely inspired me a lot. And then Delaney Bramlett, when I first heard him sing, it was a weird realization. I was like, oh, I think this is how I sing in a way. And I found myself really being attached to him and just how playful he is. I really enjoy a playful vocal, soulful, and somebody that is not taking their vocals too seriously. They're not just singing. They're actually doing more than just singing, if that makes sense.
At least one of your shows around this time was a duo show, right?
For Colorado, yes, they're both duo.
Do you want to talk briefly about your other half?
Yeah, Aaron Shreve. He's definitely, as far as Massachusetts go, one of the best guitarists that's around here. More importantly, he's just such a good friend of mine. He's like my little brother. And we started playing together in, I think it was 2019. He came by a session we were doing just to watch and hang. And then on the last day of that session, we were doing a lot of experimental stuff. So I invited him to just come and play on some things and fell in love with his playing. And our first guitarist, Baxter Hall, he ended up leaving to do his own thing. So it was right at a perfect time where Aaron wasn't super occupied with other bands. So he started playing with us and we just really grew a bond. And we're just really good friends now. And he happens to also be a really, really good guitar player. And we've been traveling a lot in the last year, just going to different spots and playing. And so this will be another one of those. And I really like when we play together, it's a lot of country blues and soul music. But yeah, I really love a lot of old country blues stuff like Doc Watson, Mississippi John Hurt. And then the soul side is Sam Cooke and Ray Charles. And even the originals that we play are very a mesh of all of those kind of artists, all of those styles and genres.
So I assume you like playing a mix of both originals and covers in your shows.
Yeah, if we're playing covers, it's usually old songs, either traditional songs or just, I mentioned Sam Cooke. I'm a huge fan of Sam Cooke, so I do a lot of, if we're sticking in a cover, we might do an old Sam Cooke song or something like that. So if we're doing covers, it's very old music and then mostly originals. But yeah, I love playing covers. There are a lot of very good songs that are written, so why not play them?
What are some of your favorite aspects about being able to perform your songs live?
Live is the most important to me, especially, or not even especially, when we're playing with the band or if it's solo or duo. That's the real connection of music. I mean, I write and play music for myself, but it's nice to share it with people and when people are appreciating it. And same when we're playing with the band, I always look at it as we're playing with each other, we're playing for each other, we're having fun, and we love the idea that people can watch and enjoy it too. And if we're enjoying it, then the other people in the audience will enjoy it. And whatever I'm writing or whatever the band comes up with, every different show, I bring out a different side of that song, maybe even just a different feeling of the song, and the song means something different. So live, I think, answers so many questions that don't necessarily need to be answered, but it just brings those songs to life to me. Yeah, live is the most important aspect of it, I really think. I like playing music and it's fun to play at home and write, but it's really fun to just bring those songs to life live too.
Is there anything you hope audience members will be able to take away from your shows when they come and see you?
I mean, just to have a good time. I don't know. I don't have any expectations. Or even if they hate it, maybe at least they took something away. But there's nothing really, I'm not going into any performance thinking, I hope that this happens. Besides, I hope people have a good time. They might not understand any of the lyrics or anything, or they might have their own meanings for songs. So I don't really have expectations or hopes for what people could leave the show with, besides that they had a good time, or they felt like if they're paying for a ticket, then I hope they felt like it was worth it.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off and move on to our next guest?
No, I'm excited. Thank you for asking for the interview. And no, I would just say check out the music, check it out on all the things. DwayneHaggins.com is where you can find dates where Aaron and I will play, or where a whole band will be, or me. And also music. We do a archive section of the website where we post live recordings. So I always tell people to check that out. You might like studio stuff too, but we really like posting the live recording stuff. So you can find that only on the website, DwayneHaggins.com.
Thank you so much to Dwayne for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. He actually joined us on April 14th, 2023, when this interview was originally conducted, and I'm grateful that I get to share it now, especially since he's coming back to Colorado once again for the Jamestown Mercantile on Thursday, June 27th at 7 p.m. That's located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown, and once again at the Gold Hill General Store, located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Friday, June 28th at 7 p.m. So if you want to see some of his original songs, be sure to check him out there. Now, our second guest of the week. Do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
My name is Eric Richard Stone, and I am a songwriter living in Nederland, Colorado, and originally from the East Coast, Philadelphia area, around Pennsylvania, and went to college in Vermont and spent a lot of time on the Maine coast as well. That's where I first started playing music back in the 70s. So I'm not really a spring chicken, I guess. I've been doing this music thing for a long time, but I had a 30-year career in natural resources management and wildlife biology. So I put it aside for about 30 years while I raised a family and had that career, and then decided to come back to music.
And around this time, you were performing at Very Nice, weren't you?
Yeah, Susan and Jeff Usually we have a pretty regular monthly gig there, either myself solo or with my duo partner Tom Hall, or possibly as a trio now with a bass player by the name of Patty Walter, who lives in Boulder, and Tom Hall lives here and plays mandolin, and he's also a great songwriter. And we've been performing together now for about, I think, going on about 10 years.
Before we promote your upcoming shows, though, how did you get started in music in the first place?
Oh, gosh. Well, I come from a musical family, albeit a classical one. My extended family includes some of the original faculty at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, and also they started the Day Chamber Concert Series on the Maine Coast, mostly violinists and pianists and flautists, some opera singers in the bunch, but it was a classical introduction to music. And I went to a small school, a Quaker school in Philadelphia called Germantown Friends School that had a really well-developed music program. And I sang in the choir and learned how to, I was taking musical theory classes in high school. And I decided then around my sophomore, junior year that I really wanted to start writing songs. I was a singer, but I didn't play any instruments. I dabbled with the cello a little bit for a couple of years. I gave that up, and I really wanted to play guitar, and I was drawn more to folk music, the likes of James Taylor and Jim Croce and Dan Fogelberg and Joni Mitchell, Tom Rush. Spent some time going to folk music clubs in and around the Philadelphia area and up in Vermont and on the coast of Maine, which had a real vibrant folk music scene. So in high school, I decided I wanted to start writing songs, and I was in a music theory class, and everybody else was playing instruments to be able to write songs with, and it was a little cheaper, more affordable, and more portable, certainly, to take up the guitar than the piano. So I taught myself to play the guitar, bought my first guitar in high school, and wrote my first song in 1975, played my first paying gig in a bar in Philadelphia in 1976, and that same summer started playing at a bar in Vermont where I had a summer job, and that's what kind of got me started.
I asked this question a little earlier than usual, but that's all right. What are some of your favorite aspects about performing live?
Well, there's really two aspects of it for me. One is to be an entertainer and to bring music to people who enjoy that style of music. But the other is also to tell a story, to entertain by telling a story. And my songs, if they work correctly, they're either telling a story on their own, or they're telling an emotion or a feeling or some kind of emotional content that can be related to for the audience members. It doesn't always happen that way. A lot of times when you're starting out, you're playing in bars and you're basically just background music, and a lot of times the audiences aren't listening that much. But I've been very fortunate to be able to be selective about where I want to play based on having an audience that I can interact with. And so rather than just being in front of an audience and playing music while they're talking about the World Cup soccer match they just saw or the state of the world, it's nice to have an audience who you can interact with as a performer. And I've found that to be the case very much at Very Nice Brewing and some of the other venues that I play at pretty regularly. And now I get to play on some bigger stages and festivals. We're going to be playing at some big festivals this summer, and then you're on a stage and the audience is paying to come see you play. So you're not just a musical entertainment in a bar anymore. It's great to be able to play concert venues.
What are some memorable experiences that have come out of you playing in these kinds of venues?
Well, I've been really lucky to have gotten to know other musicians along the way. I first started off in Durango, Colorado as a high school teacher after college, and I opened for a guy by the name of Utah Phillips. Bruce Phillips was a pretty well-known folk singer, an elderly statesman of the craft, I'd say. And I opened for him, and I remember him giving me some really, really good advice as a performer in the early days of my performing. And then I moved around a bit during grad school and ended up in Jackson Hole playing at a regular weekly thing called the Jackson Hole Hootenanny, and that's where I met John Denver and Chuck Pyle and quite a few other better-known musicians and got to interact with them. And a pretty famous folk singer by the name of Tom Rush lived just down the road from me, and I got to spend some time with him and learn some things from him as a performer. And then I had a family and raised some kids, and kids grew up and moved away, and I went back to performing again. And I was writing songs all along the way, but not really sure I'd be able to play them in a performance situation. But when I came back to music again, I had some great experiences being able to connect with the folks down the road in Lyons, Colorado, Planet Bluegrass, and I got to perform on the main stage of Rocky Mountain Folks Festival, and I got to perform at a really nice songwriting festival up in Red Lodge, Montana for 3 days called the Red Lodge Songwriter Festival. And this year we're going to perform down in Pagosa Springs at the Pagosa Folk and Bluegrass Festival on the main stage. And I got involved with the folks at Folk West, who are the owners of that festival, and now I've changed hands to KSCT, and I've been on their staff and have helped them put on that festival for quite a few years now. And both Tom Hall and I perform there quite regularly. So it's been a lot of great highlights, and it just gets better every year. I see no end to it. I like being able to share my music with whoever I can.
And what do you hope that audience members will be able to take away from your shows when they come and see you?
Well, right now, playing with Tom, we have just a whole lot of fun performing, and we hope that energy of our having fun performing with each other translates to the fun that the audience gets out of it too. We call it stagecraft. That's sort of the professional name given to not just singing a song, not just the musical aspects of it, but also the way you introduce a song or the banter between us between songs. Sometimes even during a song, we have the banter back and forth that we plan on and put into our act. It's a whole performance. It's not just playing a song and the musical aspects of it, but we have so much fun playing together that I think the audience also has fun with us, watching us play. We also put a lot of energy into our vocal harmonies and how we arrange the songs that we play. We both write songs, and so again, the songs themselves have interesting stories to tell, interesting emotions to share with the audience, sometimes sad, sometimes happy, sometimes goofy and silly, and we just hope our audience takes all of that fun stuff home with them.
And what are some of your favorite aspects about being able to write songs and share them with a crowd?
That's my art. The performance is a really separate issue for me. The performance is a lot of fun, but the creating of an artwork is how I view writing a song. And when you put words, melody, the instrumentation behind the melody together, and the arrangement for that piece of art all together, it makes me really proud to then present that to an audience later on. But I've also, at this point now, I've got my partner Laura's here too. Is it 8 CDs I've got?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think I've got 8 CDs recorded now, and it kind of feels like a pretty good collection of work for an artist who's about to turn 65 years old. It's like being a painter. If you were a painter or a sculptor, you'd be able to show the world your collective works of art, and that's how I view my song.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off for this episode?
Well, I'm in between CDs, so I've got a few songs written for the next one. I'm going to take my time this time. During the pandemic, a lot of my fellow songwriters felt as though they were kind of constipated and nothing was coming out. It was just this horrible feeling of dread, and a lot of songwriter friends were telling me they couldn't write anything because they just felt so horrible. I don't know how it happened, but I ended up with 3 CDs in 2 years worth of original songs. So I had the opposite. I wasn't constipated. I guess you could call it songwriting diarrhea or something, but the songs just sort of poured out of me. A lot of them out of the angst of coming out of the racial tensions of the Black Lives Matter movement, then into the pandemic and political upheaval during the early days of the pandemic and through the election, and maybe out of the 2020 election, even more songs. So I just was gushing with songs like a river and spring snowmelt or something like that. They just kept flowing out of me. And so now it felt really good for the last year to take time off from songwriting, to allow myself to just experience life and be able to perform those songs more and work on my performances more. And I've got a few songs in the works. Some I've finished and started recording already, but I'm going to probably take my time with this next CD, and I expect to have another CD probably ready in a year or two. But right now, Tom and I and Patricia are going to be getting ready for a tour this spring and summer, and I think we'll really look forward to getting out on the road and traveling and performing in front of new audiences. So that's kind of what we're looking for coming up. We'll always have our monthly gig at Very Nice Brewing. They've been really kind and generous to us, and we like to to help them bring in a crowd and fill the place with both bodies and music. And so we're happy to play there once a month. And we also play locally at Howling Wind Brewery down the road in Rollinsville. So we'll certainly play locally always, but we're also looking forward to traveling. And if you could do me a favor maybe and make a link to my website in whatever you write, that would be great, because that's where people can both find my music. You could always find my music on all the different streaming platforms too, but best for me to have people connect directly with me, and they could keep up on where I'm playing by going to my website, which is ericrichardstone.com. And that way people can see videos, they can listen to music, they can purchase music, they can see where I'm playing next and what my schedule is. And there's also a place to sign up for my email list and get my blog posts, which are usually monthly blog posts. So that'd be great.
Thank you so much to Eric for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. This is not his first time on the podcast, but it is the first time I got to interview him, and I recorded this interview all the way back on December 23rd, 2022. So I thank Eric for letting me share this now, especially since he's got some new shows coming up. You can catch him performing with his friend Tom Hall for the duo Stone Hall this Saturday, June 22nd, starting at 5 p.m. at the Very Nice Brewing Company, located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112 in Nederland. You can also check him out solo at Busey Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Nederland, on Sunday, July 7th, starting at 2 p.m. And you can catch him again with Tom Hall as part of Stone Hall on Saturday, July 20th at the Very Nice Brewing Company, same address, starting at 5 p.m. You can also head to ericrichardstone.com for more information about upcoming shows and to figure out how you can purchase or stream all of his released music, including some new singles for an upcoming album. I forgot to mention this in previous episodes of the podcast, but I have a new email address courtesy of the Mountain Ear. If you want to be involved in the podcast in any way, shape, or form, especially considering I'm doing so many interviews in the next couple of months, you can email me now at media@themountainear.com to see when we can schedule an interview. Be sure to check out the Music of the Mountains articles that I originally wrote for Dwayne Haggins in the April 20th, 2023 edition, and for Eric Stone, which I wrote in the December 29th, 2022 edition of the Mountain Ear. Sorry that this podcast is a day late, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow with our regularly scheduled weekly music podcast. The song that you are currently listening to is called Living the Dream, and it's by Eric Richard Stone. You can catch him performing live with Tom Hall at the Very Nice Brewing Company on Saturday, June 22nd. You can catch him singing solo on Sunday, July 7th at Busey Brews, and you can catch him again with Tom Hall on Saturday, July 20th at the Very Nice Brewing Company. You can also stream plenty of his music wherever you get your music, and be sure to check out his upcoming album, which is hopefully to be released later this year.
Life's not perfect, but we're still living the dream. We've had our share of troubled times, and there were times I had my doubts.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.